Today is August 1st. We are now entering the Charlton Board of Health meeting. All board members are in attendance. We also have Jim Philbrook, the health director, with us. And we also have Tom Purcell, the septic system expert, with us. First item on the agenda would be the acceptance of the prior meeting minutes for July 11th, 2023.
I'll make a motion that we accept the prior meeting minutes.
I'll second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Minutes are good. Next on the agenda, we have the Bay Path Tight Tank Plan Review. Tom, do you want to start off with that?
Mr. Jalbert, this is Lenny Jalbert, he's the engineer from Jalbert Engineering, who's looking, the school, I guess, is looking to put a field house into use, and they wanted to have some type of sanitary facilities for occasional use. Lenny called me and asked me about it. The cost was almost cost prohibitive to make the hookup to the community sewer. The long distance hookup was going to cost an exorbitant amount of money. So we talked about, for its limited use, we might talk about a tight tank with an alarm system and for occasional use, and it would be pumped out as long as there was a road heavy enough to get off-road into the building. Lenny decided that to pursue that avenue, and we're going. This is the formality now that has to go through with a tight tank. The state doesn't approve tight tanks anymore. It's the Board of Health that approves it only. Your agent can't. It has to be done at a public hearing and all, and that's why we're here.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any problems with it?
I have no problem at all with it.
Well, I have no problems with it either. It's a field house, and basically it sounds like it would be a, I don't know what you'd call it, financial hardship, or...
It's 750 feet to nearest connection.
You'd have to do a force main 750 feet across the field and with pumps and everything else.
Parking lot.
Manifest injustice.
Manifest injustice.
Do a manifest injustice to put a conventional system in. So.
Yeah, limited use for a field house. I'm good with it. John, I don't know, do you have any questions
No.
or concerns?
None at all.
Do you have any questions or concerns with it?
Nope.
No? So, Tom, if you're good with it, I'm good with it. I know Mr. Jalbert's been doing it a long time, so if you're good with it,
I'm good with it.
yeah, so,
There's an alarm on it at 60%.
yep.
The alarm goes off, and we could go one step further if we had to, with shutting the water off as well. But I don't think that's necessary at this time.
Mhm.
If we happen to have a runaway system, well, then we'll deal with it next.
I don't think it's going to get that much use. It's
No.
seasonal.
No.
Plus
no.
it's big, 3,000 gallon.
So at 60% it goes off.
Yep.
So it's going to be 1,800 gallons, which is one truckload of sewerage. It's a little less than a truckload of sewerage, but and they'll get down. They may have to pump it every couple of years, but
Mhm.
it could be inspected annually, and just to make sure that it doesn't run away.
Now, as far as the abutters, this is far away from anybody even relatively close. I know it just came up at the last meeting, and we discussed it at the last meeting, but we didn't have enough information on it. We weren't saying no, we weren't saying yes, we just wanted to know a little more about it, so
Yeah,
unfortunately,
and
Mr. Jalbert had
notifying the
nothing.
abutters, it's mandatory.
Right,
The state law says that you have to hold a public hearing on it, and you have to notify all the abutters.
right.
And they all, Mr. Chairman, they all hooked up municipal water now anyway, so all the wells have been decommissioned.
Decommissioned, yeah. I have no problem. Somebody want to make a motion to approve this plan?
You want to make your first motion as a board member?
Sure.
That's
So-
pretty easy.
I make a motion to approve the plan.
All you have to do is read the name of it off the title block.
We'll do it this way.
Title block is right on
To
there.
call it the field house.
You got it. I make a motion to approve the field house holding tank for Bay Path Vocational Vocational Technical High School.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Yep. Good to go.
Okay, the other thing, we have one road to the clubhouse that they have across from the entrance of the school, that building there, which is, they were going to put in a connection there that goes directly into the line, so there's no variance or anything they need. It's just that they do not have handicap facilities in it, and they're gonna put in a handicap toilet in that building and connect it to the sewer line.
They're gonna add another unit? They're gonna add
No.
a toilet?
They're just gonna add the handicap toilet, that's it.
They're taking one out and
There's
making?
nothing there now.
Oh, there's nothing there.
Foresight, I don't know why they never put one in.
Yeah.
They never did.
But they're gonna tie right into the sewer line?
That's going directly into the sewer line, and it's only 40 feet away, so it's no big deal.
Well, it's good that they're doing that.
Yeah.
Any other conversation on this? If not, we're gonna move
For
on.
me.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Jalbert.
Sorry to have you come back. I apologize for that.
No problem.
Thanks, Mr. Jalbert.
We just wanted to see you again.
I understand you can't be in two places at once.
That's true. That is true.
Have a good evening.
Yep,
You too.
thank you. Okay, next we have a variance for 89 Cranberry Meadow Shore Road.
You can come up, Craig, sit right over here.
Don, you want to start this one as well?
Yes, good evening. This is Richard Goby is the engineer representing the homeowner,
Craig Walker.
Craig, and looking to replace his existing cesspool with a conventional Title V septic system. Unfortunately, all these lots, they're what we call postage stamp lots. It does meet the criteria for a conventional Title V septic system, with the exception of offset to wells, which Title V has a contingency plan for what we call local upgrade approvals or variances that are allowable to make a repair. I guess we can turn everything over to Mr. Goby.
I did, I don't know how much this you wanted. This was the list of abutters that we used, and I used, the people that were within 100 feet. There were a couple on there that were way down the end of the street. I didn't notify them. So it's anybody that's, could have been within 100 feet of his lot.
Okay.
And these were the, and one of the problems I had with the well locations was that they're not visible, and there's no records for it. So what I did was, a typical one, this was the one for Karen Burlingame, I may as well do hers. So I sent out the first letter I sent to her, it said, according to the Charlton Board of Assessors, you are the owner. And I said, your neighbor's proposing to install a septic system and aren't assisting the design as the engineer. I need to locate all the wells near this project. I was not able to visually see the location of your well. I've enclosed a map, so I sent a map for her to mark it, and with approximate locations and a self-addressed stamped envelope. If you'd be so kind as to marking the well location, any distances or any information would be helpful to me on the plan, and mail that one. If you'd rather have me meet you on site, please call me. Thank you for your assistance. Well, I never received anything from her. And then she got the registered letter that would have said the hearing is going to be by the Charlton Board of Health, held on Tuesday, August 1st at 6 p.m. in the Board of Health office, 37 Main Street, Charlton, Mass. The hearing will be for the request for local upgrade application to repair the septic system of Craig Walker at 89 Cranberry Meadow Lakeshore Road. Your well may be closer than the required 100 feet to the proposed septic system across the street. And then I said, your attendance of this hearing is welcome but not required. If you have any questions, you may contact the Board of Health office, or you may contact me. Well, they never contacted me, but they did get it. I did get this one.
Yeah, I believe she's here with us tonight.
Oh, okay.
I think it's a different last name, but she's with us.
That's the, yeah, I know, but that's the official list for the owner of the property.
No, that's fine.
Okay. So that was one of them. The other one's, Heard, I sent it to him, basically the same sort of letter, but when he did send me back a map of it, and his well is beyond the 100 feet. He's on the other side of, and then the other one was from Syriac. He didn't send it back on the notice, but I had actually talked to him, and his well was visible, and I was able to mark that, and it's on the plan. I did receive the things back from Lori Wolf, which was on there. Her well's located on the plan, because she did contact me. She lives in California, she contacted me, told me where it was, and I went out. And then the other one was John Mann, same thing, that he's really the closest one to him. And he had sent back a letter to me, located, he marked where his well was located, and then I marked it on the plan. So that's the story with the wells. As far as the rest of it, I designed a septic system that could meet the minimum requirements the town of Charlton has for a 3-bedroom house. It's all gravel there. We kept it as far as we could without, encroaching any more on, I could keep the tank a little closer to his house and the system itself. But he's got a real foundation. He doesn't have like a stone. It's a regular, pretty solid concrete foundation.
So the tank, is it 6 feet, or is that what the cesspool is?
That's 6 feet. The cesspool's on the water
It's
side.
on the water side of the property.
Okay.
So when you think about it from the standpoint of, it's a far improvement from
Right.
environmentally, and also that well was probably 30 feet to his well.
So what are the actual variances that you need tonight?
59 feet to a well, and then the two distance ones for the
70 and 89?
well, those I put the other ones, you can put them all in there, but I just said the closest one is the 59 to his, which,
That's he's insulting his own well.
Yep, that's.
The rest of them are
we're further away.
beyond the requisite 50 feet. They're more
And-
like 70 to 90 feet away.
And probably all of them, their septic systems are closer than that distance that we have.
Tom, do you have a problem with this?
No, not at all. And I mean, the reason why I'm here, ordinarily I would just send in a letter of recommendation, but one of the abutters, Laurie Wolf, had sent quite a detailed list of questions.
Okay, we'll get to that in
So-
a minute. Karen?
I measured my well. I am 44 feet from my well till halfway from the road
Onto his
to
property.
the house.
You're 40 feet.
44.
I'm 44.
feet, that's it.
So you're 44 feet from the well to
Well-
what point?
To the
To
center of his
halfway.
land.
From the road to his house, halfway. We didn't go all the way up to the house.
So that would be basically, if I'm looking at the plan, about halfway into the system. Does that make sense, Tom? You seeing what I'm seeing?
Okay, I mean, you're 44 feet from your house,
She's
From-
across
from
the
the
street.
well.
from 96.
96.
Well,
Right.
So if the 44 feet goes, it looks like if it goes halfway up the yard, it'd go probably through the system, through the leach field.
Mhm. Well, again, it's not, we can, you, the board can allow that under a true variance.
Mhm.
This is not what we were asking for up until this point, where local upgrade approvals, which, what they do is they give us two sets of standards, 100% compliance, and then the variance or the local upgrade approvals, which are minor variances.
Mhm.
If it's closer than 50 feet, now it becomes a major variance.
Right.
Now it's going to be up to the board whether you would grant a variance for less than 50 feet to a well.
Okay.
Yeah, but I don't know if the measurements are correct to
Well,
I don't know
again,
where that
but
is.
I don't either.
It is correct.
All right, well,
well,
And if any sewage backs up into the well, that's not good either.
what type of a well do you have? You have a drilled well, or is it a hand dug well, or?
It's true.
Yeah,
It's true.
it goes over about 250 feet deep.
So
It's
it's
a
more.
drilled well.
Yep.
I'm assuming that, how do you tell the difference between a drill? I know a hand dug well is
No,
usually
believe me,
round
it's
and
more than
open.
250 feet deep.
It's got a 6-inch pipe sticking up out
No.
of the ground.
No, does not.
Well, how,
where's it located?
It's located next to the cellar door, but close to the road.
Real close to the road.
Is
I'm
it
real
outside?
what
close
type
to
of a
the-
well do you have?
Oh, the pump is on the inside of the house.
But the well itself, is that
I
outside
think
the
they
house?
used to call it a deep well or artesian well,
Yeah, so an
It-
artesian well is a drilled well.
You
Yeah,
have a pump in,
but back then,
but it's like 250 feet easy because I
you have a
put
pump
hose
inside the
on one
well
time
or
to fix
inside
it.
the house?
house.
Pumps inside the house.
It's not an artesian well.
It wouldn't be.
No,
No.
artesian wells have the pump in the well.
Okay.
What they have, if there's a pump inside the house, is what they call a jet siphon type of a setup. Means they got a hand dug well or a shallow well outside.
250 feet deep?
250
unless it
feet
was-
is not shallow.
Unless it was a, what do they call them, Rich, with the,
Well, I'm
when they
sure-
drive them?
You can have some. I think you can have pumps inside the house. They can draw it up. It's just
Unless
just
it-
have the suction and the stuff down
Unless
inside
that's
the
what it
well.
is, it's
You know
a
what I
jet
mean? It's-
siphon,
It could be, you know.
It could be an artesian well.
an
So-
artesian well with a
Yeah.
jet siphon on it.
Well, deep well. You know, I mean, I don't really artesians. You know, it's everybody use that term, but
Mm.
most wells aren't true artesians. You know.
I
they're
mean,
just-
ours is over 300 feet deep, and we had to take that one up, and our pumps is inside in the basement. And that's got a jet pumps on those. And they got the two hoses coming up, and they go into it, coming out of the well.
So, with that being said, and assuming that the distance is accurate, 44 feet gets into the center of the yard, do you see this being a problem, Tom?
I really don't, again,
Well, 250 feet down. You think about it. You know, most sewage is cleaned to within a foot or two. 250 feet. It's basically like saying it's 250 feet down.
Right.
Maybe, I don't know what the static level in the water, maybe the static level is within 50 feet, so.
Let's do this. Let's go to that list of questions from California. And one of the questions on there, it says, I am told that it's very unlikely the septic system will contaminate my well, even though the required 100-foot distance cannot be met. How often does contamination happen in these types of exemptions? So, can you help answer that question?
well, I can tell you that 36 years I've been doing this, and I've never had a septic system contaminate a well in this particular case.
I'll join you on that. In the 13 years I've been on this board, we've never had an issue where we've allowed a septic system and then it's contaminated a well. I've never, ever seen it either.
But the only thing that for an artesian well has a well casing, and the casing is driven into bedrock, and it's what they call a drive shoe on the bottom. And what it does is it seals the groundwater, which is the water above the ledge, from the water that's the bedrock water supply. Now, part of the reason for them being such a deep well might be that, I don't know when they put it in, if they hydrofracted it, which what happens is sometimes in the drilling procedure, the fines go in and they pack some of the fissures in the rock. And now they use, what we do is we put a water hammer to the well. We put 10,000 PSI and we whack the well, and all the fines fall out of the fissures, and we get some active water supply. Before they did that, they used to keep drilling and drilling and drilling to make up a well, pretty much a tank, a 6-inch tank. to make the volume that you needed to get an adequate supply of water, volume-wise. But if now, today's day and age, we'd get down to 100 feet, maybe a couple of 100 feet tops, and then they'd put a water hammer to it and rattle it, and sure enough, it'll open up most of them. Very rare that that wells are really dry. So now we take what we're putting into the ground as septic system, and that goes into the groundwater, which is separated from the bedrock water supply. That's why it's very rare that you see any contamination that goes from a septic system to a well. Prior to 1978, I think it was, the standard was 50 feet from a well to a septic system or a cesspool. And that's because a lot of them were hand dug wells, and some of them were the drilled wells, but the old standard was 50 feet. 1986, they increased it to 100 feet. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts uses an overabundance of care and caution, and so they're on the excess side all the time.
So here's my thought. I would like to see the homeowner get the well. I do believe it's an upgrade from a cesspool, and it's probably a better deal. But I don't want to have neighbors concerned that they're drinking unhealthy water or water that's not safe to drink.
And that was one of the questions that Ms. Wolf forwarded. And the only way you can do that at this point is have the Burlingames test their well for a baseline. Test it today before the septic system gets put in. We're going to test for conventional stuff, the Title V, nitrates, ammonia, and total coliform. We've established a baseline so that now if anything starts to change or the well has a problem, we can test the well again and compare today's numbers to next year's numbers and see if there's any change. Then there's further testing that can be done after that. We can put tracers in the septic system so that we can see if it'll get picked up in the well. If it's the case, then we know the septic system is contaminating the well. But if it isn't being picked up, if the tracer dye or the radioisotope isn't making it over to the well, then we know that that's not the source of contamination. Wells,
How close is it? If their septic system's on the side of the house with that container, that's closer than what his is.
right, that would be the other thing. If their well is closer to the septic system than the client's. Again, you can do all kinds of testing and tracing on it. So, but the likelihood of it ever happening is.
I would probably agree with it. I mean, I've done it for a long time. I actually had put one in one time. The septic, the leaching area was 15 feet from the well. They test, and part of the requirement is they had to have it tested on a yearly basis. They never caught any contamination in all that period of time. And the well was down 250 feet or whatever it was. And I would agree with Tom. In all my time, I've never seen a well contaminated from a septic system. I've seen them contaminated from chemicals or contaminated from salt, things like that, but not from a septic system.
Yeah, usually what we get is the cap has been removed, the kids may be tampering with it, an animal might have gotten into the well. All it takes is a little mouse. They get into a chipmunk and they can't get out. Now all of a sudden we'll have coliform bacteria showing up in the well.
Yeah.
But that's an easy fix too. You pour a gallon of bleach down and sterilize or flush the well.
So, let me go back to you guys. Do you, after hearing from not one but two professionals with, I don't want to say how many years, quite a few years of experience,
More than 5.
do you feel comfortable that you're not, drinking contaminated water if we allow this? The board, I shouldn't say the board, because I don't want to speak for these two.
Right.
I feel as though it will be safe to drink and that there wouldn't be an effect. And if the engineer and the town rep feels the same way, I do believe that it's okay, but I don't want you to be thinking, well, you know, what do you have for dinner last night? We'll find out tomorrow, and a cup of, you know, coffee or something like that. Like, I don't want you to feel as though it's unsafe, but after hearing from the professionals, do you feel better about it? Or do you
I
think you...
still have doubts because, you know, you're talking water tables. I'm not an engineer, so I'm just talking from experience on my end, which isn't much as you guys.
Mhm.
But it's a feeling that, okay, you guys say, oh, probably won't contaminate it. Okay, now I'm gone, my kids have the house, and all of a sudden it's contaminated from the well. What are their things? You know, that's the way I'm going with this. You know, what's gonna happen like 5-10 years down the road?
Jim?
I'm very familiar with that area, and what he's taken a blighted property with a broken down system and upgrading to what we would say is the highest of standards. Yes, it's close. They're all close there. Every single person there is close. And he's taken a property and he's making it better for the town of Charlton, improving the environment by putting in a good engineered system. And I think it's much safer than what's there now and what he's going to put in. So
I agree, and to answer the question, Karen, and please correct me if I'm off on the wrong track here, but down the road, if the system's failing, it's going to be an odor, it's going to be above ground situation. It's not going to be a situation where it's contaminating the water down below, because by the time this effluent or the septic system gets down, it does leach out within a foot or 2 feet. Never mind a brand new system going through, I'm sure, 4 feet of sand or 3 feet of sand or whatever the plan's calling out here.
And I would think the water table in those areas is gonna flow towards the lake, not uphill towards their well.
The bottom of the septic system is designed already to be greater than, it's 5 feet above the water table as it is. There's a 5-foot separation between the bottom of the septic system and the actual water table. That's what we did with testing at the site. We did a couple of deep observation holes and checked the quality of the material. It was all sand. Historically, we're taught that usually within 24 inches of the interface between the bottom of the septic system and the sewerage itself becomes, it's called swimmable. They sometimes stretch it to it's drinkable, but I'd be hard pressed to convince anybody to drink some of that. But,
Is this planned on being a full-time residence?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just a 1-bedroom though.
1 bedroom, yeah?
Yeah. It's small cottage.
Mhm.
It's
How close is it going to your house?
How close is it? I don't
Is
understand
it
the question.
54? I think it's 54.
Did you want to see the septic system?
How close to his house?
I came
right?
and saw it
Oh, it's right in the
already.
front.
In
Yeah.
front, and is this like a tank underground?
The tank is 6 feet from the front of the house.
Yeah.
And then it looks
So
like,
how big is the tank?
the tank's...
It's
gonna
1,500
be-
gallon tank.
15 gallon tank?
What happens is the tank is not really the septic system. The tank is a separating vessel.
Okay,
What it does is it separates the solids from the liquids.
I got you, yeah,
The gray water goes out,
okay.
and the gray water, which means it's all partially treated sewerage.
Right, so where's the gray water going? Is it
Right
like,
here.
Again in 6 months.
okay,
It's going to be the gray water area. It'll perk into the ground right there. And within a foot, typically within a foot of the interface of where the water is going, it's going to be clean or swimmable.
And in this case, we're
Below
going
that system.
5 feet before it hits
It's actually a
natural.
lot further. The ground,
Right.
The groundwater was a lot lower there than.
Right. So it was greater than 5 feet, but
And like you said earlier, I'd be willing, test it before, test it in a year. I have no problem with that either. I mean,
I have no problem with you putting
Oh,
a
no,
septic
no.
system.
I'm trying
Don't
to
get me
improve it.
wrong
I
there
know, I
either.
know. I
Is there
understand.
anything in the future, say, like you said, the future, nothing
With
happens,
sewer going up there?
anything that would,
No, I wouldn't
written
see
on the
that
paper
coming.
that's stating that anything did come about with the water that would be corrected?
Well, that's a good question, and we've had similar situations like this where we've had contaminated wells, and we were suspect that it was the neighbor's septic system or whatnot. And what we ended up doing was we put a dye chemical in the suspected septic system, whether they flushed it or put it right in the D box, and waited a little bit of time to let it trickle through and see if, in fact, that was the source of the contamination. So there are ways to do that, because sometimes it's the smoking gun is not the actual smoking gun. It's suspect because someone just did this, but it could be from anywhere. So there are ways to test that. And I guess if there was a concern about that, if the homeowner was on board with it, the best thing to do is, if you allow them to test the well, we do it now and it says, okay, this is what we have in our water as of today, and do it in a period from now, 90 days, a year from now, if there's new construction going on. or
Well, after
whatever.
the system is put in and used,
After it's put in and used,
because it might be a while before it's using it.
and then it's going to be a while before, if it's a one-bedroom house, by the time it fills this tank and actually gets into the system, could take some time. So, I mean, a year, what, 6 months, a year?
Well, I would say 6 months after.
With
he's
a
put
limited
it in.
use on a tank, it might take him that long to fill the tank.
That's what I'm saying. It's
Well,
going to have some time.
He does take a shower or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They all go swim in the pond, so.
Yeah.
But then it
Does it have an alarm on it too, or is that just those smaller tanks, like our neighbors have alarms on theirs? They put these small tanks in.
Yeah, that would be a
Those are-
tight tank. This would
those-
not be a tight tank.
Right.
Okay.
yeah.
Is a tight tank the same thing as a holding tank?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Just want to
Yeah.
get my facts straight.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want a holding tank or a tight tank
No.
because it's
It's a maintenance-
expensive.
It's a maintenance issue.
Yeah.
It really is. It's a maintenance
Yeah, but
issue.
they had to put a
And it-
couple in up by us.
It
Oh, yeah.
devalues,
Yeah.
it devalues your property, it actually
I'll
does. With a
just send
conventional
Andrew some
septic
copy,
system,
Give them back to you.
you
I don't
get
need it.
your best
Actually,
bang
she
for the
can
buck.
take
So
everything in
if
here.
we did a
for
testing
records for
program
Craig's property,
with
that
you,
way if anyone
would you
else-
want to do
Yeah.
that? To test it in the
Like
future?
they'll test it every 10 years or whatever, every year or
we would-
whatever.
Well,
We
You can
would
make
test
copies,
it.
Scan them to you and you can
We
have
would
them,
test it
You
now,
know, how's that?
Right.
before any usage was there, and then probably test it in 6 years, 6 months, to see, because if there was a problem with it,
We
I
need
think
the
we would,
originals.
if the system was failing for whatever reason. But that, I think that should help as being homeowners for you guys to say, okay, it affected us. Maybe an additional test, we'd probably have to discuss that with the board to do it down the road. But even if, just say we said, okay, let's do it in 10 years from now, or 5 years from now, and we test the water and it comes up with something in the water, there's still no smoking gun of saying it's necessarily coming
From
From
that.
from
one.
that system.
Yeah.
Unless you do a dye test.
That'll run the second wave of testing now that have to be done, more of the investigative type. So,
But generally speaking, like if we get into the investigative stage, who pays for that?
it's the homeowner, the affected well,
Correct.
until such time as
Is a smoking gun.
the smoking gun is proved. But the only way you're gonna force that is, Board of Health might be able to step in, but I don't think that Board of Health usually has enough teeth. So you'd have to end up having to go to court over it.
So it becomes civil.
Becomes a civil case where, I
Well,
understand
again,
that
I've never seen it happen.
that's the but again,
Yeah. No, I know you haven't seen it, and neither have I, and neither has Tom. But just in fairness to the neighbors,
there is a process.
there's a process, but also I do want them to feel comfortable that the water that they're drinking is safe. and it's not contaminated. That's why by us having this conversation and whatnot, it's,
Well, Craig will pay for their first testing and he'll pay for it in 6 months.
And the testing is not that expensive. A couple $100, Tom, for
Yeah,
what you
you're
said?
not gonna do the whole Title V, the whole battery of
No,
testing.
just what you mentioned.
You're only gonna do the Title V requisite for, it's nitrates, nitrites, ammonia, and total coliform.
That's
Yeah.
it.
And that's about 150, 125
Yep,
for that. The Charlton well would be, you know, we need 2 cars and $75,000 to test some of the water, but it's a very expensive process for a conventional.
Yeah, and
What we're
I will
looking
pay
for,
for
what we're
that.
looking for is the
Yeah.
Title
and
V.
you're comfortable with
The
that.
Title
I'm
V
comfortable.
aspect.
We'll have the original, and then when I occupancy, when I actually lived there for a year or 6 months,
Mhm.
then another test. Is that?
Yeah, I don't think we've necessarily set a second test date yet. But let's, Karen, would that make you feel better about it?
Yes.
All right, so what time frame would make you feel better? Say he moves into the house and he's up and running. Okay, now we
Yeah,
say,
when
let's
he's up and
go.
running.
Would you like to see 6 months, a year? What,
I'm gonna say
3 years? Like,
6 months. Am I off? Somebody guide me. How?
no, you know, if I could, the engineers are probably gonna know better than I do, but the standard 3-bedroom house, the average water usage going into leach field is about 330 gallons per day.
correct.
Yeah.
One person maximum, this would be if you're doing all sorts of laundry and stuff,
Yeah,
maybe
it's just gonna be me and my
100
girlfriend,
gallons
so it's-
a day, so
You
probably less than that,
per person uses really, they say about 60.
yeah.
That's basically.
It's usually
what it is, but
half
that's-
of what
but It's
the
usually
projected
half.
amount.
It's really 30, but it's designed at 60.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay,
So 30 gallons a
So-
day in a 1,500 gallon tank is,
yeah, that's a couple months.
that's hitting it hard for 50 days in a row.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
2 months before the tank really
Unless you
gets
have us
full.
over for a
All
party.
those-
Yeah, well, that's different. Yeah.
Everybody's
Yeah.
flushing the toilet.
Yeah,
So-
don't serve beer, just
Yeah,
whiskey.
right.
So
Yeah.
if what we said made any sense to anything, the first couple of months he lives there, the tank's still just filling up.
Right.
So if we did 6 months or 8 months, that gives some time frame of it actually working, the system working. So I think 6 months would be reasonable, or 8 months would be
Yeah,
reasonable.
I mean, what we're looking at is, he's not gonna be putting a septic system in right away. So when he goes to put the system in, you'll see what he's doing, putting the septic system in. Because that, from the building to the road's gonna be all ripped up, so.
And Tom, you
Uh,
sign off on it, right?
And I sign off on it, and the magic time will be about 6 months later, or unless you get something happening with your well, then we'll do a quick look and see what's happening. But, yeah, from the time that we sign off on the COC to, we'll let you know.
So we need to do one now.
Yeah, we're gonna
Start the
do,
base.
you're gonna pay for a baseline now.
Do you have a company that does that, or do you do that? Do we?
I just,
I had
Any-
they did my well, Cummings. Have you heard of them?
No.
Do they
Yes.
mass certified?
There's one in
Yeah, they can choose. one.
Granby or Belgium Town that tests water, well water.
Yeah, there's lots of them even in this town.
but
That's
probably
when
want
I-
somebody to- probably want somebody to come and actually take the scene.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
want
so
somebody to
chain
do
of
that.
chain of
Because-
custody.
Right,
Yeah,
And to
chain of
clar-
custody.
To
right.
clarify, what is being installed reduces the risk of contamination more than what is currently there.
yes.
Oh, yeah.
Long
Yeah.
term, this is
Leach.
way better.
Way better.
With a conventional
Leach pits.
septic system versus a cesspool,
Correct. So there's actually a higher risk of contamination if we kept it this
if we
way.
kept the cesspool, right.
Yeah,
So if, as long as the person testing the water is licensed, it could even be a well driller or whoever.
CMG.
Yeah,
We've
there's,
done it before when there's questionable well contamination from the neighbors to lake.
Typically, it's the lab itself. They send,
Yeah,
if
you
you're
just-
looking for something for potentially for court,
Mhm.
you want to make sure that you have a chain of custody, and the only way that a lab is going to give you a certified test that it came from that particular house is if they go out, do the picking of the specimen.
Mhm.
yeah.
they have to pick the spec.
I'm good with that. I'm good with a well
So-
driller.
What we'll need to do is make sure we have your contact information.
Just get the
So that,
number from them.
The applicant can just get a hold of you, make arrangements to pull a specimen.
All right, so it looks like we're going to need a motion to approve a septic system at, what's the house number?
89.
89 Cranberry Meadow Lake Road.
No, it's not Meadow Lake.
No, it's Cranberry Meadow
Meadow
Shore.
Shore Road.
I got it right here.
Lake Shore Road, I don't know, they keep.
No, it's Cranberry Meadow Shore Road.
Okay.
Okay. That's fine, this plan says something different, which is,
Even on the deed was different.
it's just a
too.
typo,
It's
it's
like
fine.
5 different names in this town, but I kept pretty,
Okay.
Okay. Based on a plan dated 7 of 2023 by Gobi Land Engineering, we're looking for a variance request to install a septic system as provided on this plan, with the understanding that there are wells within the 100-foot buffer, and specifically number 96 Burlingame Road, that may be as close as
Shore Road.
Cranberry Meadow Shore Road.
Yeah, you said Burlingame Road.
Oh,
Burlingame.
sorry about that.
Yeah,
Burlingame.
that name.
I'm looking at the house number here, 96.
Too much information to
Confusing.
discern here.
With that well being as close to as close to as 44 feet, with two under two conditions. The first condition would be to, if allowed, get a water sample from 96 Cranberry Meadow Road prior to the construction of the septic system, and to get a second water test from the same house between 6 and 8 months after the sign off from the Charlton Board of Health.
Right.
Does that sound fair?
Well, I would say after occupancy,
After occupancy.
because he may get it before he moves in, you know.
Okay.
Depends what he does.
When the occupancy permit is signed off, then
Right,
that's the only trackable document.
yeah,
that
the
there would
occupancy
be.
for the house, right.
Right.
It just went. I
You're-
lost it.
Okay.
I did have a question, I just lost it.
So I have a condition for a vote. Do you have it?
Yeah, I have it.
Go ahead.
The water, when they do the testing, is that gonna come from the well itself or from the faucet in the
Come in the
house?
faucet.
Yeah.
From the
No,
faucet.
I think.
Okay.
Could they do an outside faucet?
I don't think there was one, was
Yes,
there?
they do. They can, if it's available.
Do you
That's
have a
okay,
garden
we-
hose?
I think there is an outside faucet, I'm not sure, but
Can-
we can always do the kitchen.
Okay,
For
so you're okay
convenience,
with
they-
that?
that's what they
Yeah.
typically use as the kitchen sink.
well, you may find that you might have some contamination in your well already, and then you're now gonna be responsible if the test comes up, because he doesn't have a septic system there.
Right.
Well, yeah, well, we won't know until we do it, and then there's a
That's the
baseline.
whole idea of establishing a baseline.
Getting a
Yeah.
baseline, right?
Right.
Get the baseline now
I'm
before
just
his
letting
system
him know
gets put
that
into
you could
use.
find things in, that maybe from your own septic.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, it's
Which,
good to know that.
If
too.
that's the case, it's good to know anyways.
yeah. one way
We
or
always
another.
recommend everybody test their
So I
well.
should probably go test it before you guys do to make sure it equals.
Well, it sounds like it's gonna be pretty quick, that somebody's gonna be
Well,
out
I
there with a
wouldn't worry
vial.
about it. It's gonna be a free test for you, very
Yeah, we're
serious.
not out to get you.
Yeah.
If there's something in
There's
your,
something that we'll know.
you'll know about it.
Yeah.
It's nothing, we're certainly not, we're not out to get you at all.
But I haven't had any complaints about the water, so.
Yeah, there you go.
So to clarify, the motion would be to approve this plan as presented to us today with the two conditions. The testing of house number 96 before the construction of the septic system, and then a second test between 6 and 8 months after the occupancy permit.
Sounds good. And I'm not gonna try to repeat that. If we can just go with that, I'm gonna second your motion.
You
as
say
stated.
so moved.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so that's the deal. And if you guys can exchange information, or if your neighbors and however you guys want to work it out.
Sure.
And if you could give them as much notice as possible, and so they're, hey, we're gonna have a water test on this day, and they're good with it, and it all works out for everybody, so there's no surprises for them as well. And
Sure.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I'll definitely work with whatever they want to do.
well, welcome to the neighborhood.
Oh, thank you.
Are
Thank
you
very
are you
much.
from Charlton originally?
I grew up in
no.
Southbridge, but I live in Spencer now, so I'm kind of in the middle now.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Are you
Craig and I went to high
LaFleche?
school and played football together.
no LaFleche. No.
No LaFleche,
No, a
okay.
Walker.
I just had to ask.
I'm a mongrel. I'm all
You're-
over the place.
Well, thank you. It was fun.
Thank you, Mr. Goby.
When they're gonna start?
Hey, I always like the education out of it. I
Thank
learned
you very
something
much.
tonight.
Hi, I'm
It's-
Craig anyway.
It makes sense to do the
Yeah,
test.
Gary. Yeah, are you?
They didn't have it
which way,
before,
going
but
toward,
when I used to do them,
Highland
that
Street
was
or this
always
way?
a
I'm
requirement.
right across from,
Because
right
if there was
directly
wells with
across.
400 feet, that was automatic to do a
Oh.
baseline test.
Home.
You didn't have to do
Yeah,
it, you didn't have to do a
96.
follow-up in 6
Corner
months,
of
but
Pine.
but basically,
Oh,
if
there's
somebody's
one
well
that will market once for sale.
contaminated,
Oh, right on the
Yeah.
corner of
Yeah.
Highland
you
and
could
Shore.
look
Yeah.
for,
Yeah.
You're further
because you
down.
could never know,
I'm-
even if,
look, I'm right
2 years
directly
from now, who's
across
got
from
Oh, so you're right on the water.
you could come from
No,
someplace
I'm
up on,
across the road
up
from you.
on, by Ethiopia Drive,
Directly
you don't
across
know.
the
Exactly.
road.
Oh,
You
that's
could fall
what
on some
I- Well,
ledge.
that one
You
that's
come from
Chris
any
was
place.
there.
Again, that's why
Flooring
if
truck, the all flooring.
we would
You
use,
see the big box truck?
Yeah.
the good testing labs will use a radioisotope. They'll look for a trace amount.
That's
Right.
where it is.
And if it shows
In my
that it doesn't
tenants.
appear,
Oh,
and the well is still
I'm
contaminated with
handling
something else,
Yeah, I'm
then
nobody.
it's not
yeah. Because
not the
that's,
applicant's problem.
I know Chris,
And,
he's got the big box truck and stuff like that. And I don't,
Okay,
is it Gary?
thank you, everyone.
Yeah, he's taking care of Gary.
We're gonna move on to
Oh,
our,
I'm sorry.
Good luck,
No,
Mr.
it's all
Thank you,
Walker.
thank you very
Thank
much.
you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, folks.
Matt,
Get our
good
information.
seeing
good
you.
seeing you as well. Yeah,
Any
take
questions,
care.
call the board.
You too.
Thursday,
Thursday.
September. It's a solid maybe.
Yeah. Till the end of September.
Okay. All right. Moving on.
Yeah, right
Let's
here.
discuss Flint Road landfill. So, there was discussion of whether or not Gary may or may not be coming in today, and I said, yeah, Gary will be here, but it was kind of wishful thinking. We kind of talked about it, Jim, based on our conversation about it.
He's sitting in an airport. He says he's available if you want to talk to him, but the thing is, I can update you pretty quick.
Why don't you?
Sure.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Mr. McQuaid approved the core drilling for the sample holes at the landfill, so that'll start. I think Gary will be starting that. He's going to let the board know. They've been approved by Conservation and approved by DEP, that core sampling in the back, the holes he needs to drill.
Yep.
So he'll be in touch with Mr. Jackson to make sure he's aware, because that's where the line is.
Yep.
And he'll update you more on that. He did get another J hit. I think I told you about it, Matt. It was at 55 Flint Road,
Okay.
but it's not part of the PFAS6. It was a J detection outside of that realm. So I know you said you're going to take it on a case-by-case basis. He has not contacted the owner yet. He's still waiting for one more test to come back, but it's not part, so keep it consistent with the town would provide water if wanted. Please let me know. It's 55 Flint Road, data just came in. No PFAS AS6, however, one PFAS A J detection only.
Okay. So right now, that residents in particular
Mhm.
were quarterly.
Yes.
So I think what we should do is wait another quarter if it's a J detection and it's not part of the PFAS 6.
Okay.
I say we wait another quarter and keep an eye on that one, which I know we will, and we'll talk about it at that time.
And also 131 Burlingame, because we discussed, data came in, no PFAS A6, S6, however, 2 PFAS AS6J detections. So they're all J detection, which is really not a detection. But I think, like you said, Mr. Chairman, you were taking it on a case-by-case basis. But, I think if you want, that would be consistent with 55 and do the same thing on the wait for the next test.
I agree. So let's make it known that we're aware of it.
Mhm.
But since it's a J hit, let's wait another quarter and see if it strengthens or what happens with it. And
Right. And that J hit is not part of the 6 protocol that he was talking about that would indicate it. But I wanted to bring before the board because it's a board's decision if someone really felt. But he's stuck in Spokane still, and he's in the airport in Milwaukee or something. So
okay, so just on that, that's my thought on that. John, what do you think, or what do you think?
No, I agree. Quarterly testing, especially where it's a J detection, there's no sense in raising any alarm. And of course, Gary Magnuson will have all of this in charted, whatever, Excel spreadsheet or something, right?
yeah, he'll have all that. He says one more test to come in, and then he thinks hopefully he'll be finished with all that. But like I said, they will start the core drilling. But those are the updates on the 2 J detections outside the PFAS 6.
Are you okay with that?
Yeah, that seems reasonable.
Okay, so, yeah, there's no need to take a vote or make a motion or
Okay.
anything like that. It's what protocol is right now anyway, so we're aware of it and keep an eye on it, and we'll see what the next quarter does with it.
Yeah, he will. As you know, Gary, he's pretty consistent and quick with the information. So
Flint Road landfill, anything else?
no, just that James McQuaid did send a letter of approval for the core drilling.
Just curious, how are we doing on the mowing on 90 Flint Road?
Good question. I haven't spoken to him. Gary usually monitors him when he's in there doing testing.
Mhm.
It looks good, but I think we wait. He's had a lot of rain. It's muddy.
It's muddy, yeah.
Yep, and they were there as we discussed. Gary said he saw a couple cars in there. The fire department was doing their extrication
yeah, you
stuff
said that.
on the mat, which is far away from the landfill. But they were in there. He just called and said, "I said the chairman is aware of it. It just they'll have it all cleaned up and then be out of there. You won't even know they're in there." So.
We just want to keep an eye on it, right? Because the funding came out July 1,
Mm-hmm.
so we were going to do a fall mowing. Is that right?
I think it was October we did last time, right?
We just wanted to do a spring and a fall, as long as the spring one was done.
Yeah, it's
Do you know?
been a weird. I'm going to open this door, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah,
in case
no
so-
problem. The wind just shut it.
But I will check.
Yeah.
I will check with Mr. Burlingame and Gary and discuss because he's monitoring that.
Just to get a general schedule. It's not a fire drill, but just to have an understanding of when that's going to happen.
Sure.
What else you got, Jim?
We're just Emily Quinn, who's been working with us. She works in the other 4 towns, part of our coalition, Charlton Coalition for Public Health. We'll get shirts for the board if you'd like one. Just
I'll take one.
I already put in my request.
so
I'll take one. Black?
whatever color you want. I mean, the girls are ordering stuff, so extra large. Extra large is big is what I take. Yeah.
I'll
Okay.
take an XL.
And I put Matt Gagner. What would you like on over here? It's gonna have this
Mhm.
and this, and which just like your names, Charlton Board of Health. Because if we put chairman, maybe next year.
No, it won't always be chairman.
Yeah.
Right.
So
We'd have to switch shirts
We'll
and
be
then
switching.
change names too.
Sounds good.
Or put
Charlton Board of
electrical
Health
tape over it.
member.
Yeah,
Right.
if it just said Charlton Board of Health.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
Charlton Board.
Put Charlton Board of Health. They're nice shirts and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like your hat. Your hat says Charlton Board of Health.
Yes.
I got it right here without the Charlton symbol.
I got you.
The girls, we ordered the from Talbot. She did a great job, and now we have another round of so we can order more. We wanted to see how she made them and how that worked out for everybody. But it certainly helps when you're going into dirty places and crawling through the woods, like I have for beaver permits and going for hoarding cases, which I had to do recently. I will tell you that I had to issue an order of condemnation. I won't say the address because she could not make it here. And in fairness to her to speak, I wouldn't want to give her address out. But an emergency order of condemnation,
Was that recently?
yes. And I on Friday posted it, and it's not in the house at this time. But the animal's been taken out, and working with her, with Mary Carpenter, to get her assistance to get the place cleaned up.
Does she have a place to go?
Yeah, she does, yeah. Made sure. Checked with her on Friday, we checked with her yesterday. She had a 2-hour conversation with Mary to help her out and find out how we could best serve her to have a safe place to live.
Downstairs, Mary.
Yes, Mary Carpenter. We have a community health coordinator,
Yes.
direct coordinator, Mary, who's does a great job, and she's working with her to get money. Not everyone has money available or to fix the house and do things, but certainly we were lucky this time. I didn't have to put her in a hotel, because usually I end up paying for
Yeah,
it.
I know you do.
But anyway, she did stay with her mom. We did get the animals taken out, but there's still conditions that made it unfit to human habitation and severe. Severe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, we'll get that, see how that unfolds, and hopefully
Yeah,
they
keep-
can get back in the house. And
Absolutely. Been working with her, stopped to see her on Fridays, how she was doing, and she's doing fine. She actually feels almost relieved that help is on its way and get things straightened out, get her life back in order. So, but that's a big thing. Emily's doing training. We're doing training. We had to return some money. We're discussing whether we can. We're running out of space. Our office is getting too small, but Andrew's doing a great job with budgetary. We just got our money for. We do have the 2 COVID nurses. One's full time, one's part time. They're still checking cases and working on other things. Sheltering has become a big issue with the state of Massachusetts, so be aware that they're asking communities to take in families. Charlton really doesn't have an area that we could take in families and stuff, and I discussed it with Andrew, whether the governor's office is called. I know Northborough took 100 people in just recently, trying to work with them and help and see if our nurses can help them with the vaccinations for the children, get them all vaccinated in schools and into sheltering. But the big thing for the governor of Massachusetts right now is sheltering, is identifying what sheltering would be available for people that are coming into our country legally and need a place to go. So Charlton just doesn't have the hotels or the space. I mean, there's not even an apartment available in Charlton. I mean, it's available for 20 minutes maybe, if there was one. But certainly that's something that is big in Massachusetts right now. Well, it's a right-to-house state now, so you can't deny that availability. If you have it, you have to share it, and certainly that's something we're aware of, and I'll keep the board updated on. But it's a big issue with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts right now. Is as much as possible, if there's housing available, they would like it.
yeah, it's interesting. So I'm out of the loop, right? I don't understand how that process works, but I do know how the process works. If you want to take somebody from another country and bring them into this country, and basically you have to provide shelter for that person, period. So I don't understand how people are coming in legally without shelter, and I'm sure there's a way and a reason and an explanation for it. I'm out of the loop on that, so I'm saying.
It's been a discussion. They've been sheltered, but now that sheltering has run out of the 190 days, where they have to move them and try and get them into communities that would accept them and invite them in. And I saw on the news the other day, and it's still trying to find out that Sturbridge had 50 families show up and are sheltering in Sturbridge because they have a lot of hotels. And the state pays for it, but Charlton is really not set up or doesn't have the infrastructure or apartments available that we could, entertain anyone to bring them in. So I spoke with Andrew today, and it's not something that we just don't.
Are there
buildings.
private programs for that? Like Adopt a Family or whatever? Like, I know, like, just say like the war going on overseas or whatnot. I know there was other countries, Poland or whatnot, taking families in.
Yeah, you can sponsor.
You sponsor a family.
Sponsor a family.
Are there programs where you could do that here? I'm sure.
I could look into it. I don't specifically know if you as a businessman wanted to sponsor a family. I mean, the state right now is picking up the tab, making sure they get proper housing. They're reimbursing the municipality for the housing for them, making sure they have 2 square meals a day, and are also taking them to make sure they get vaccination and make sure that they have their checkups so they can go to school safely.
I'm just wondering, like, just say somebody lives in a house that could have more people live with them, you know, and if the government helps pay some money and it makes sense, you know what I mean? I didn't know if there would be a program where somebody says, hey, I live here with my spouse, but we only use this part of the house, we still have all this that would be available, but a private, because what the government's doing right now is they're looking for public space, or are they looking for large private spaces?
Large municipal space.
Large municipal.
I know that you can sponsor families through non-governmental organizations,
Yeah.
NGOs,
Mhm.
and they work with the state to determine it, but the longevity of the program, the problem with it is that once you sponsor the family to come, you own that family until they get through the citizenship process. So it's a very long and arduous process for a family to commit to,
Like 3 years?
at least.
At least. And it's a local board of health that assumes
Yeah.
the responsibility to ensure the proper sheltering meets the minimum standards of fitness and human habitation. They are properly fed and vaccinated, and that's the board of health, which would be us all together, working with that to make sure that everyone is treated fairly and has vaccinations. We have a mobile vaccination unit. We're still working on that, but that's something they called about today. And but it's a big thing right now. It's happening, and just to keep the board, aware of how the changes from EDS and emergency dispensing sites has changed sheltering. So, and I'm the chairman of the region too. So, it's a big thing. But we've identified that we don't have a municipal building that could take people, and Charlton doesn't even have office space.
Right.
So it's not that we don't want to help people. We're certainly always willing to help people. I think everyone is, but Charlton's not set up for it. We don't have hotels and
Yeah.
stuff.
No, I heard rumors of this exact situation, but on private land going on. So that's all.
I think, like you said, if you want to assume the responsibility, it's a big responsibility to take on. It's not a 9-month, 10-month, a year. It's until placement, and they're infiltrated and accepted and back and working in the community and the schools.
And they also can't move. So like if there's
Right.
if you sponsor the family, then you decide you want to move, they cannot move. So you're stuck with that property,
Yep.
and then you now have to pay for 2 homes.
Right.
Because they live there now and they're tenants, basically.
Correct.
Yeah.
So you can't.
Get scary, or it could get scary.
Yeah.
What else you got, Jim? How the camp's doing?
Camp's doing fine. Camp Fosket twice had to be closed for the water. It's the
Bacteria.
rain is rarely E. coli bacteria. It was over the 2:30 mark, so we had to close them. The problem is they test on Tuesday, and they get the results back on Thursday, so they close on Thursday. But they were swimming in the water for 2 days, so we need to improve. And I talked to McClure Engineering about this. That the time should be speeded up a little.
Same day,
Well,
probably, if you get it in the morning.
I've had the same talk with Chris McClure last week, but some of it, his hands are tied as well because of the
Right.
labs. It's not him; it's the labs.
It's the lab, and he has a great staff. They've been working diligently to try and get to speed it up. The lab just can't do it.
The labs can only do what the labs can do, and he can only. He's not a lab.
You're right.
He's collecting and sending it.
So we got 189 kids that swam for 2 days in water, but then the next day it's at 8.
Right.
So I don't know if aeration of the water would help or movement. They need to come up with something different, because it seems to be counterproductive that they swam for 2 days. Now on Thursday and Friday it's 100, and they can't because they got to wait till Monday. Then it's 8 on Saturday, and they can swim.
Right.
It doesn't make sense, but
It's the rules.
it's the rules. Unfortunately, we all have to follow them, and it's the kids still have fun, but it's so hot and it was so humid that it kind of felt bad. But Camp Joslin offered that if they really wanted to use the beach, they could come over. It's too much of a logistic nightmare and approval and busing. It's too much money. But kudos to Camp Joslin to even say, hey, if the kids need to swim,
Yeah.
camp is open.
Right. Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
but
What else you got?
I'm sure I'm forgetting. We had to return $167,000 of money that we didn't spend. They gave us an extra. We need to hire another person, but we can't have to get the 5 boards to agree on who we're going to hire. But
Can we get out of the Leominster Tobacco Coalition then?
no.
Okay. They're probably.
Matter of fact, you have to be in a coalition in order to continue to receive funding.
Right, and that's why I said, what if we get out and then you say we lose funding? Since
If
we're
we
giving
get
the
out,
funding
we're
back,
gonna have
let's-
to let 3 people go that are, we've promised jobs for the next 6 years. So. I know that it's certainly, but they don't give tickets now until they talk to me, and I talk to you and the board. They don't have our carte blanche approval to just go out and ticket.
and I know it's not specific to this town. I know there's other towns
Website-
with the same situation that's going on here.
Yeah, it's a little. That tobacco is so strict yet. You can go down the corner, and no offense to all the marijuana distributors, but we have lost control. Basically, the Cannabis Control Commission has taken authority away from all the municipalities, and they run very well. But tobacco seems to be, with all this money for tobacco, they're more strict with tobacco than they are with the selling of marijuana, cannabis.
What else you got, Jim?
I know that you're an extra large. I know you're an extra large, and you can tell Andrea what size and what you'd like, and we'll order you up a shirt so you can advertise our Charlton Coalition for Public Health and welcome you to the board. And,
Thank you.
How
She's
about
gonna show me her shirt after, so,
Yeah.
or we're gonna talk about it.
How about our next meeting? We want to go 3 weeks on the 22nd?
3 or 4, either one.
Yeah,
I
because I'm
should
on
be good for
vacation
it.
after today. I have company coming from out of state. So
What?
I
Did you approve that with the board?
I'm camping
Yes.
on the
Oh,
22nd,
okay.
so I could
Matt said-
potentially call in,
okay.
but I'm available on the 29th.
Let's do the 29th. Sean, you go with the
29?
29th?
Yeah, should
Yeah,
be.
I'm good with that. So let's pencil in August 29th for the next Board of Health meeting. I can't imagine anything crazy coming up with the testing at the landfill. We already got over that hurdle.
Yeah.
No, I think we're by that. I mean, the woman who wanted extra water, we just doubled up her delivery, and she's happy. I went to the store personally and bought her more water. So
So let's go with that. Do I hear a meeting to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye. Time is 7:07, Jim?
7:07.